Back once again to the show that shatters the silence on men's mental health. We are unedited, unfiltered.
And as always, we are going raw. My name's Anthony.
And I'm Joey.
And I'm Eric, and we're your hosts, and welcome to Raw Minds. There it is.
Bro, you hit
We
the
are
play
back.
button and Joey just flipped. Fucking energy, man.
I
Nailed
know.
Who is this guy?
I know. He just came out of nowhere. Fuck yeah. Love it.
You know, it's funny, man. We were just talking about it, right before the show is, we're all human beings, man, and we all deal with things mentally, internally, and I was just talking to, someone really close to me today about it. And she even brought it up to me. She's like, you have the tools. You preach it. We all have the tools, but sometimes you just get stuck in your head, and we always say it's okay to take a knee. And I took a knee for a couple of days, man, because I felt like I was just getting beat up in certain areas of my life. I have no complaints. My life is good, but there is life. We go through shit and it kicks you in the face, and they're just like, and she's like, you have the tools. So, and I'm like, yeah, I know. I preach it. I know the tools to get out of this, but some days you just it's hard, man. It's really tough.
Yeah.
But that's the whole point of learning these tools. So just like I told her, I was like, instead of it sitting and weighing us down for a week, 2 weeks, 3 months, you're able to get out. You're able to get out of that way faster, right? Because no matter how good your life is, something's waiting around the corner and something's going to happen where it's going to bring you down again. But it's having the tools that we share, we only help with the tools that helped us, right?
That's right.
That's what we're doing, just to try to help you guys that are listening or anyone new listening is, to add new tools to that belt. So that way, when you do get kicked in the face, that you're not sitting in it and dwelling on it for 6 months. You're able to pull yourself up and keep moving and keep pushing forward, right? But I definitely took a knee for 2 or 3 days, but I'm all right, man. I'm good. So I was reminded of that by her today. Like, you got the tools, man. So
that's just it, man. The biggest tool is realizing that you're in this mess and needing to change, right? It's about figuring that out. Look at what I told you, and Anthony too. You guys know that just on Thursday, I now have my daughter living with me full time. I was granted that. So I'm a full-time dad now. I'm taking my daughter to school and back. I haven't had that experience since I was with my kid's mom. So that's pretty magical, and it comes with its difficulties already, but I mean, it's just things that we got to work out, right? So pretty proud of that I have my daughter full-time now. So that's a win to the dads.
Well, it's like I said, it's an adjustment. Like you said, you didn't really feel like it's an adjustment, but it is, right? Like it's in all aspects. Like I said, it's like now you got to worry about before and after school. Now you got to make sure you got food every day, right? It's an adjustment, but like it's the one tool that I got that I could never get rid of, even if I fucking wanted to, was my self-awareness, my level of self-awareness. And it's like you said, Joey, like, things are not great right now in certain parts of your life. Same with me, man. Like, shit's going on. And it's like when you have that level of self-awareness, it's like you can put it in the corner, but it's going to fucking scream at you the whole time because now you know that it's there and you know how to fix it. It's just when you're ready to fix it, right? And then I do the same thing, man. Sometimes it's just like, I'll just take a day to feel bad about myself. That's okay. Right? I call it life just doing life shit. That's what it is, man. Life's just doing life shit.
Oh, that was me.
Sometimes you got to take a knee, man. Sometimes you do.
That was me yesterday, man. Like, I just literally just told myself I'm doing nothing, and then I just laid there all day, and I just felt defeated. Like, and the thing is like I'm doing a lot of positive things, but it's just that certain part where the last month, I would say at least, where you're just like, man, like, you're grinding, you're working your ass off, and it just feels like you just keep slamming your head into a brick wall. I'm like, why am I even doing this? But that being said, is that's where people quit. This is where people give up. This is where people, I'm trying to build, a business and this and these things that people are trying to do. And this is where people are like, I can't do this. It's not worth it. I'm not getting results. Just like going to the gym. People go to the gym for a month. They don't see what they like. They quit the gym. Well,
Mhm.
guess what? You're never going to see that results because you quit. And this is where the hard part is like going to the gym and getting in shape. It's not easy. Starting a business and getting the door shut on you and people saying no and your product sucks. Yeah, it's like a comedian getting laughed off the stage when they start. Same
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
But that's the times where you just got to be like you said, the level of self awareness where you're like, I know the tools, I know this is a part of life, and you're not going to please everybody. Not everyone's going to like what you're doing, but this is where you got to get through these moments of your life because when you do get there, you be like, I went through that to get to this.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
because I didn't give up, this is where I'm at now. And
Mhm.
that's what's pushing me. And obviously, I'm never going to quit. But yeah, we're humans.
Yeah, man.
Every so often, I'm like, fuck this. I ain't doing nothing. I'm done. I don't want to do this shit anymore. I hate
Yeah.
this. I'm not doing throwing in the towel. That's how you feel. I mean, that's normal shit, right?
Yeah.
But that's where literally 98% of people do throw in the towel. Like, it's too much. I'm stressed out. Like, man, but you'll never get to where you want to be without stepping out of your comfort zone, stepping out of that bubble, and just keep pushing through, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's
It
all
makes
about
a big
timing.
difference. It makes a big difference when you're doing what you love too, though. Because rumor has it, I heard from a little friend of ours over here that you were actually DJing, and there's a video of you fucking DJing.
Yeah, you were.
And we've talked
I
about
saw
it
your
before, man.
snaps. Yeah,
Yeah,
buddy.
man.
I
I
saw
was
the
jumping.
snaps.
I was jumping on the decks for a few minutes, but I'm not
Fuck
like
yeah,
I used to
buddy.
DJ. I DJ 20 years ago, but I just jumped on there for a little bit because I hosted that event on Saturday.
Calm down
Yeah,
there,
man.
Tiesto. Calm down there.
That's just something. Music, something I've always enjoyed, and that's what we talked about in the past. Is just find things that drive you, that gives you purpose, that excites you, even if it's not
Yeah.
another job. Like real quick example is I work with a guy, and he's a great dude, awesome, and we talk every day for months, and he was struggling because he didn't have nothing. Couldn't find something. He's like, I don't know what to do. I want to do something, but I can't find it. And that's where people get down and really depressed is because they don't feel like they have a purpose, right? And they're struggling
Yeah.
to find something that lifts them up and gets them going. And I said, well, what is it you always wanted? He's like, always been big in photography. I'm like, buy a camera, man. Start there. You got to buy the
Mhm.
camera.
Mhm.
And he, oh, yeah, 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 yeah. And then when I had my event coming up to it, I'm like, why don't you get a camera and then you can come snap pictures and practice and learn it. And I had a big fashion photographer there that's going to give him pointers. And 2 weeks ago, he's like, I bought the camera, man. I'm like, well done. And that made me
Mhm.
feel
Fuck
good,
yeah.
right? Now, and then he's
Yeah,
excited. He
man.
came to the party. He's walking around the
Yeah.
photographer. He's getting big photographers helping him. And that was it right there. I'm like, there you go, buddy. You just got to start. And that's what I'm trying
Yeah.
to say to people is like, stop hesitating because there'll never be the right time. You know what I mean? In
Yeah.
anything, you just got to do it. There's no right time. If you just keep waiting for the right time to do what you want to do, dude, you'll never do it because it'll never be the right time. There is no right time. You just got to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
Period.
I
Sign up
heard
for
a
And
that
good
class.
saying actually about that. A saying that I heard is paralysis through analysis. You're overthinking the
mm.
situation, but you're not doing anything about it. You're thinking it through
Mhm.
and through and through, but realistically, you're paralyzing yourself because it's all
Yeah.
in here. Just got my fucking vape in my hand. It's all in here, right? And you're not actually doing anything about it. And we
Yeah.
talked about that like 2 fucking weeks ago, man. Like getting
Yeah.
stuck in your head.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fighting your own
Uh,
self, man. You're fighting your own mind, dude. You're having more
Mhm.
you have some of the worst conversations with yourself because at the end of the day, yourself is the biggest critic, right?
Mhm.
Also.
Nothing
Um,
kills you faster than the thoughts in your own head.
yeah.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah.
Right. So once you learn to get out of that and push through that, because we all have it, man. We all fight
Mhm.
ourselves. I battle myself every day. I'm doing it right now. I'm like, fuck. So, you know what I mean? So
Yep.
it's fun in those tools, man, and people listening, that's it. And like I said, there's never the right time to take that chance. There's never the right time to step out of your zone you know, sign up for that class, take that job. Any opportunity comes up, man, take it.
You
Stop
have
fighting
to.
your fight, and you have anxiety. You got to push through it because once you do it, you'll realize, well, what the fuck was I so worried about? I love this. I should have done this 3 years ago, or
Yep.
whatever. So because I've done that recently, I'm like, man, why didn't I do this a long time ago? So the more
Well,
you drag it out, man, the more you're gonna be fighting yourself, and like you said, paralyzing yourself.
Yep.
So yeah,
well, I just want to say that we have a guest today, and
What?
we are. Yeah, you didn't know?
Crazy. I never even noticed.
Newsflash.
Newsflash,
Um,
buddy.
we got reached out from his publicist, and we were blown away. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, he wrote a book. It's his second book, actually. It's Special Welfare on Social Warfare. That's right. Yeah, I hope I said that. Yeah. And just a little bit about our guest. His name is Tom. He was a former Navy SEAL who went through intense training and life-altering challenges, including a discharge due to drug use, which led him to a path of recovery and redemption. And through his experiences, he discovered his purpose, helping young adults navigating through difficult problems and life, from adolescence to adulthood. And then he became a licensed clinical social worker and has worked with youth in recovery programs focusing on resilience and mental health. So, other further ado, I want to welcome our guest. Thank you, Tom, for joining us, and we are excited to have you.
And I'm
Absolutely.
excited.
yes, sir. Welcome.
I appreciate it. So it's at this point, just to attach to the conversation you're all having,
Mm-hmm.
the book was there. The nonprofit that I have
Oh,
that's introduced in this book.
Oh, did we get a little
I
bit of
have
a
uh-oh.
pause
sought
there?
funding
Yeah.
for the last
I
10
think we
years.
lost him there for a
And
second.
I saw in myself
Hopefully he'll
that
come
I
back.
was
Oh.
going to
See, we
have
forewarned
this by
we
the age of
forewarned
50.
Tom about technical issues,
Yeah.
and he's the one having them.
Yeah,
There
it's
you are,
okay.
buddy. You're
There you
back.
are,
You're
Tom.
back.
You're good.
We'll
Don't
start
worry.
over. Go ahead,
We're
man.
not going anywhere for you, buddy.
Yeah.
We'll wait around.
You guys warned me on that one to
We
say,
did.
just keep going.
There he goes
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. You're good,
Yeah, it
brother.
happens, man.
Okay, so do I pick up, go
Yeah,
back?
just keep on going, man.
Just
This is
Okay.
raw, brother.
My dream was to have what I'm trying to still get today at the age of 50, and I am now 15 years older, and I never gave up. But it's one of those things that it's never easy, and it comes in its own time. And to learn how to be patient is what it's been all about for the last decade.
Mm-hmm.
So the story is special welfare, social warfare. Special welfare, I'm a social worker. I am a licensed clinical board certified. My main focus is youth, 18, 19, and 20. But I also do therapy for all kinds of individuals. It doesn't matter what your background. I'm semi-retired. I only work 2 days. In those 2 days, I do therapy with a number of folks. So getting back to the point is the social warfare.
Mm-hmm.
Former Navy SEAL. I spent, the military was 1979 to 1988. I went through BUDS, which is Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL training. My class was 106. We graduated February the 29th, 1980. And 9 years later, I was discharged for drug use from SEAL Team 1. And that was the first time I had lost in a way that I couldn't figure out how to get it back. I totally, completely imploded. And the military was like, we're no more here. So what I was given was a general under honorable, and they gave me a RE code of 4, which means I can't go back in the military. The general means that after a year I can get a military lawyer and have it upgraded, which I did. So now I have the honorable discharge.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the beginning. And what happened was I come out of the military experiencing life like there's no way to describe it. And so I end up in the civilian world where for the past 10 years, I've been operating throughout the world in ways that, it's the stories don't need to be told there.
Mm-hmm.
You know the name, you can use your imagination.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom line was I was in terrible shape. I was at my peak. I'm 6'3", 215, 220. On that day of discharge, I was 6'3", 165. And I was still looking in the mirror thinking I look good. Well, anyways, I end up in a recovery facility. I do 90 days, and that's the beginning. It allowed me to break the physical habit, but it did not begin to teach me how to live life. And that's still difficult. What I did was I came up with the idea that I could not see my childhood. I just remember that it was good. There was nothing negative about it. I couldn't feel it. I couldn't see it. So my idea is if I've got to go back there, go back to put yourself into an environment in which you can see what you were and address it in real time. So the divine wisdom in my mind is, well, I'll go to work at an adolescent recovery facility and work with kids that were my age when I started, and maybe I can learn something. Yeah. Wow, that was an education. So that was, I spent 4 years not there helping kids. You know what? I was there watching them and having them help me.
Yeah.
And in turn, in that time, the key element to me is this is my personal belief. If you're having trouble with staying sober, it's about purpose and meaning. For me, with these youth, they gave me purpose. And the meaning that I saw in that was I'm going to work the rest of my life in giving back to them the gift they gave to me. And so that's been my journey for the last 3 decades.
Good for you.
And I need to put in there and acknowledge this, that after 32 years of sobriety, I relapsed. And I relapsed because of I forgot. I had arrived. I hadn't used in a long time and just didn't see that there was any trouble. Well, I'm a veteran in the VA. The VA 10 years ago would be very kind with their bottles of Vicodin. So I wasn't prescribed pills. I was given bottles. Once a month, a bottle would show up.
Oh, wow.
And I justified in my mind that, well, what I used in the form of alcohol and drugs, this isn't that. So I'm not really, I'm not cheating. The bottom line is you can wrap it up in anything you want and call it whatever you want. But the bottom line is the price you pay is the truth. And the truth is I started chipping away, and at 32 years, I relapsed. After 3 weeks, I was suicidal, went back to the VA, and got some help. But the help that I got was my family, my brothers. We're a family of recovering addicts and alcoholics. My brothers put it to me succinctly. They said, if you want to quit, we're here for you. If you don't come around. Don't show up. Don't come knocking. We don't want to see you. So I made the choice right then, and that was 5 years ago. So that's the
glad
piece
you did.
that I like to share that says I am like, everybody else. I'm a drug addict, alcoholic, trying to figure it out, who had an experience with youth that gave me purpose and meaning. So the first book that's up on the shelf there is The Bell Tolls for Thee.
Did you want to bring it right to the screen so you can show everybody that are watching, man? We'd love for you to plug that.
My publisher is going to thank you for telling me to do that. So
No problem.
this is the first book that I wrote, and it was written while I was in the Horn of Africa, Djibouti. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
run with that
Crazy.
one. So I was working as a contractor with the DoD, the Department of Defense, as a clinician working with active duty military. And I would go anywhere in the world where they were at. And there's a little base in Djibouti called Camp Lomonier. And I was then shifted around through Kenya to Ethiopia. And at that time, this book came about. I had a lot of downtime, and I would just start writing, and I just wrote.
I don't want to interrupt you there, but can you just give the title of the book just for everybody so they have
The
it?
Bell Tolls for Thee.
There you go. Okay.
We got it?
Yep.
Perfect. So it came so naturally, and all that I did was I told my backstory since birth to the time I was sitting in a third world country, watching and experiencing a life that I couldn't have imagined unless I had been put in it, which I had.
Mm-hmm.
And so that there was trying to also at the end of the book acknowledge that I have a program. I'm trying to get it funded so that I can work with youth, specifically 18, 19, and 20-year-olds. And it was, I think I sold 400 copies, and I think my father bought like 200 of them. So
nice.
Cool.
And that's the program is Honored Bound Academy.
The program is called Honor Bound Academy. The website, just so that you can have that, and thank you, is the honorboundacademy.org. All of it put together. The honorboundacademy.org. So where we are with that is in the present day, and I'm looking at the youth of America right now and watching how deeply troubled their life is in their existence. This from having seen generations, the millennials, the generation X, and now this generation Z. This generation is more intuitive than any generation that's come before them. And where the problem is, from my clinical way of looking at it, the adult population in America right now is at a crossroads, and they are at loggerheads. Nobody wants to listen to nobody else. And at this point, because everybody is like dug in, our youth are being bombarded with all of this, trying to make sense of it, and not having the words to do it, or not having enough of an understanding of their emotions to correctly see it so that they can move through it. They are left right now with issues that are just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And so Honor Bound Academy is just one dimension of what I'm looking to do. And that is the military. When I went through in the Navy, has special forces. I went through BUDS, which is basic underwater demolition SEAL training. And what that is for me, it was rite of passage. It was intense for 6 months. And the only thing that you had to do was not quit. And every day you were treated well, not quite well. So the bottom line is that it's the rite of passage that I'm looking at. Now, if you create a rite of passage and say it came from the military, nobody's going to touch this thing. And so this isn't what it's about. When I was a youth, I participated in a thing that was called the Indian Guides. I also did Boy Scouting. So I'm looking at a civilian equivalent to a rite of passage with a foundation that is built upon a structure that challenges. And it's not like buds in that the challenge was they tried to make me quit and I tried to not quit.
Yeah.
This is, we want to teach you in ways and put you in environments where you're going to fail. And that's the point. I want you to fail so that I can help you understand that failure is a right that you have that nobody can take from you. You have the right to fail. Where you got a problem is if you won't get back up and try again, then that's failure.
That's real failure.
Dude, we
Definitely.
talk about that all the time. Like, and it's so true, Tom. Just like I feel like my generation, I don't even know what I am, to be honest with you. But
You're a
like what
millennial.
generation I fall into. But I'm in that weird generation of like my parents were boomers, and then like I was the transitional generation of, I remember not having internet and cell phones, but I also have internet and cell phones now. And my kids, like, I remember like doing stuff with my PlayStation and my computer, and my parents like, I have no idea what you're doing. And now my daughter's 9 years old and she does stuff with my phone, and I'm like, I have no idea what you're doing. And I'm like turning into my parents. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God. But like I used to have a business building houses, and like the level of entitlement that is in this younger generation, with there's so much entitlement, but there's so much privilege and lack of failure because they're so coddled and like everything is okay. And like failure is a part of life,
100%.
but they don't teach like what happens when you fail, right? Because it's like, oh, it's okay. Like everything's going to be okay. You need to realize that like sometimes it's not okay. Like failing is not okay, but you need to know how to overcome that.
Yeah.
So like I totally understand where you're going with this, and I totally respect what you're doing, especially at like that pivotal age. Like thinking back from like Christ 16 to 20 for me, like that was such an emotional, like pivotal time in my life, and I didn't have the resources to fall back on to like man, if I had something like this when I was that age, I can't really say life would be that much different, but like if I would have learned these types of tools that you're talking about, or that like we talk about, like it would have gave me a better chance at, I don't want to say failing, because I didn't fail at life, because we're still here, right? Like we're still successful, even with you, with all your trials and tribulations. Like we're not
Definitely.
failures by any means, but I feel like it would have given me an opportunity to understand myself better at a younger age instead of figuring it out in my 30s, because I don't want to
Definitely.
say it's too late, but it's that weird thing. Like our guest last week, he had a great story about breaking the generational trauma and helping heal his father through him doing the healing himself. And like that was like his interpretation of breaking the generational trauma. So yeah, I can totally understand the adolescent ages, because I was a friggin' delinquent in those ages, and I was
Well,
rebellious as hell.
well, I think me myself too is, the biggest thing I believe in life is your perspective, right? It's how you look at things, right? Because you look at most people, I should say, look at uh, failure as a bad thing. They look at, oh, my life's over because they left me. Oh, I don't know. I'm so like my life's gone to shit because I lost that job. Well, most people, or a lot of people, should be looking at it like this is a blessing in disguise. This is an opportunity you were just given. And I
Yeah.
understand if it's a breakup, it's hurtful, believe me.
Yeah.
But in that breakup is your biggest blessing, is your biggest opportunity that's coming because that person left you, because you got laid off, because you got fired, right? And it's all about your perspective and how you look at things. And Tom, I've said it lots on our show before. It's your perspective's either your power or your prison, right? It's which way are you looking at it? Which way are you taking this setback? And me, a prime example, I got kicked in the. I'm feeling like I'm getting kicked in the face, but I also have to step back and, like Anthony said, is I've gotten to the best place with clarity in my mind, where that heightened of self awareness, where that's screaming at me because I know right? How the tools that we've learned to try to get out of that little funk that we get into, and that's normal. But it's your perspective. Like there's no failure in life.
Oh,
It's
he's gone.
And there goes Joey.
Oh, and then
And
he's back. This is the
Can you hear me?
beauts of online.
yeah, baby.
That was a quick one too. Bam.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, in and
Yeah.
out. Joey, if you can
Oh,
hear us, just hit
can you
your
hear
mute
me?
and then off your camera, and then hit it back on, and it should pop you back on. Well, he's coming back
Can you
in.
hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
We
Do
can
the
hear
same
you.
with your camera, and
You-
we'll be able to see it too. This is live, man. This is raw minds, and
I like it.
we deal
But
with these
what I was
technical difficulties on the way, but this is how we grow.
well, what I was just gonna finish off saying that the only failure in life is if you quit. That's
Yes.
it. That's
Absolutely.
the only failure. Because if your
100.
business that you started didn't work out and you had to shut the doors, you didn't fail. You did what most people wouldn't do is you actually tried. You gave it a shot, right? And if your business failed, for example, and it didn't work out, there's a reason for that. There is another opportunity coming, and the universe is telling you that's not what you're supposed to be doing because something else is going to come around. And like I look back at me being laid off or that person left me and broke my heart. Man, if it wasn't for that, there's no way I'd be doing the things I'm doing now. There's not a chance. So I am so grateful, even though it was hurt and painful and stressful. But through that, to get is the reason that I was able to flip that. So I look back, I'm like, that's the biggest blessing and the biggest opportunities I was ever given is because you left me, because you laid me off. Now I'm in a way better job. Now I'm with someone better, and it just like that, right? So it's all about your perspective and just know that failure, the only way that you're gonna fail is if you quit. That's the only way.
Yep, 100%. I got a question for you, Tom.
Yeah.
So, what inspired you to write this book, focusing on youth development and rites of passage?
To be perfectly honest, it was one of those things that it was an intuition. I've
Light bulb
written
clicked.
more of a, there's something that I need to be part of, and I need a vehicle to get there. And the book is the vehicle. And the story is the point and the purpose. And before moving to that part, to understand what I'm even saying is understanding the spiritual. Now, as a clinical therapist, I cannot touch politics or religion. It is unethical for me to do that because it's not acceptable. I have my own belief system. That's, I have it.
Yeah.
And where I can find the area in which to transition is spirituality. Because spirituality is not necessarily religious. It can be, but spirituality is, in the book, the way I brought it about was part of the 4 points that merge together are I utilize Native Americans in their geographic area and in their way of life as being part of Honor Bound Academy. So it doesn't have a religion, but it has a Native American representation. And
Yes.
it's a foundational basis to understand spirituality and how I'm thinking it was a year and a half, 2 years ago. I'm watching what's going on in the world. I'm watching with the adult population that I'm doing therapy with. I'm watching the effect it's having on all the kids. And I'm like, nobody wants to have a conversation. Nobody wants to talk. And I'm looking at, well, how can I make that happen? As a social worker, I work with the homeless. I work with the addicted. I worked with the mental health. I worked in the prison system. I've worked in the jail system. I have a body of knowledge at looking at why are we dealing with the types of incarcerations that we're looking at, the homelessness, the employed but not employed individuals where there's no hope, there's no like
Mm-hmm.
purpose and meaning in life. And so I sat down and started writing, and I felt a crunch. I wanted it done in 4 months, and I was able to write it in 4 months. I've researched, because anytime you come to me and you tell me you got a problem and it's a unique thing and I've never really dealt with it, I plunge in and do my homework. I need to do research. I need to understand you from where you're coming from. Otherwise, I don't have your answer. You have it. I got to help you figure out how to get to it.
Okay.
And so
I like it.
All of that was revolving around what I'm seeing, and then writing a book, and that's dropped right there. So special welfare, social warfare. The special welfare is aligning the types of programming and the supports that are needed. And if not, well, social warfare is not that far away.
Yeah.
Touche.
100%.
So I wanted to ask you, Tom.
Yeah.
So like in Canada, we have, how can I say it? Not stipulations, but you basically said like when you had got honorably discharged from the military, they essentially had tried to wash their hands of you per se, right? Now in Canada, I know from personal experience, but also through my knowledge that I've gained over my years of being sober, a company is not legally allowed to discharge you without offering you some form of help prior to discharging you.
Huh.
So, like when I had dealt with my company when I was in active addiction, they legally are obligated to offer me some form of help before, be it treatment, be it counseling, anything. They can't just say, like, these are your issues, you have to go. They can't do that. They have to offer you any form of help so that they cover their own ass before they let you go. So my company offered me help in a substantial way, but I know they've dealt with other people and offered them help, and they've declined the help. And the moment they decline the help, they're not obligated to keep them employed there anymore. So,
Right.
is there anything similar like that in the States? I mean, obviously, when you had gone through that situation, it was quite a few years ago in comparison to mine. But do you guys have that type of um, thing implemented in regards to companies? Like if you work for a company, like are they allowed to just like wash their hands of you, say we want nothing to do with you?
Yes. Yeah.
Really, eh? Yeah.
Yeah. That's the
That's bad.
system. You know, not too much history, but you go back to 74, the Nixon administration. He's the one that made the beginning of the drug problem, because it was in the Vietnam War and it was coming back into America and it was freaking people out. So he looked to address it, but he addressed it in two avenues. One was law enforcement, the other was recovery. There was a budget that was like 50-50 in 74 that today it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And we are aligned with, again, follow the money. Where's the money? Look at the money and understand why you're looking at homelessness, addiction, all of these things. They're tied together. And at this stage, being a recovering addict and alcoholic, I cannot remove it. It's part of who I am. But at the same time, my focus is not working with recovery. I'm dealing with adolescent America, young adult America, who I'm looking at seeing are being left to their own devices without the support system, without the programming, with all the situation, the safety net under them, so that when you fail, there's somebody there or something there to pick you up. Doesn't exist right now. And the book that was written was so that I can have a conversation for adolescents. I shared earlier, I'm dressed like this for a reason. Right now, I'm interviewing and I'm interviewing with America's youth. I'm looking to become an advocate for them, to have the conversation that nobody wants to have. And I'm beginning, and so grateful to you guys because you're allowing me to be heard out there. And from my own personal recovery, my spirituality, my belief in a power greater than, if I align my truth, my words, my being, my way of expressing myself as absolutely honorable and truthful, that's what the world will feel from me. And then the world will move things out of the way to allow it to find me as long as I stay true to myself.
Yes. And
So that's
Anthony touches on that all the time too about, coming down to people's level and just staying true because like when he goes and sees people in meetings, he brings down to the level and he's raw with them. He's real and that's what we are, right? You got to be raw. And that's him being authentic, and showing that it's okay to be vulnerable and this is who I am just because I have this many the years over my belt doesn't mean I'm any different. If I think I have that right, sorry to speak on you, Anthony, but I think
That's
I
all good,
yeah,
man. But yeah, like Eric's saying, like my favorite thing to do when I go into treatment centers is meet them on their level.
mhm,
Like the way I explain it is they see a guy come in off the street. I come in, I say I'm sober, I tell my story, and then I get to leave, right? So they're in there, they're scared that may be their first time, it may be multiple times, right? And then they look at me and they're like, well, this guy's way up here and I'm down here because I was smoking crack a week ago. And the first thing I do is I go in there and I tell a story about the really fucked up stuff that I used to do when I was in active addiction. It's like, hey man, like this is who I am, but like here's what I did to not do these things anymore. So I've really grasped onto the idea of meeting people on their level, understanding where they're at and bringing myself to their level. And it's not necessarily down, but bringing myself to their level to meet them wherever they're at so that they can feel a level of safety with me
yeah,
and understanding with me to be able to be vulnerable enough to have those types of conversations. And I feel like
exactly.
that's a very important thing to do, and you can almost see it in people's faces when you're talking to people about stuff like that. And even on the show, like even with Laverne, like stuff he was talking about last night, Jesus, it's been a long week. Last week, like there was things he was saying that I could relate to, and I didn't even acknowledge them during the show, and I just like
Yeah,
inside, I'm like, "Oh my god, man, like I get it." And like he had even said at one point, like he was law enforcement and he met a gentleman who he had crossed paths with prior, and then they had met decades later, and the one he had become a police officer and the other gentleman had become a drug addict. They both suffered from the same issues. They had went through the same thing, but they had different ways to cope with those problems, And it's just like, yeah, yeah, meeting people on their level, man, is like a thing that like I'm really it's something that I'm trying to be more aware of when I'm having conversations with people.
mhm.
your ear.
Mhm.
And that's what I think that's what that you also do, Tom, just because, you're talking about about your addiction and what happened, you're honest with everything and you're bringing everything out. And it's meeting a lot of other people that's on your level and on their level because, maybe someone else there, one of our listeners is dealing with that,
Mhm.
so it's all about, like we said, being true to yourself. Because if you're not true to yourself, you're just gonna surround yourself with lies and all this and this bad jujus, I guess you could say,
There you go. Yeah. You said the key word too is vulnerable.
Yeah.
We're meant, you cannot show vulnerability. That's, you know what? There is a time and a place. We all know that. Yes, you do. But
Hmm.
for the majority of time, you need not. You don't look down on people. You don't
That's right.
believe yourself to be
Yeah.
better than somebody else. And what it is in that vulnerability, you actually are more open to learning than at any other time. When I
Yeah.
know, I'm not listening to you. I know. Well,
Yeah.
no, you don't know. It
Yeah.
comes down to humility vulnerability. These were the gifts that I got when I
Yeah.
came through, when I had to be this rock solid. It was called rootin' tootin' shootin', double. Well, how did that go? Rootin' tootin' shootin', double cap crimpin', frogman. No sky too high, no sea too deep. No, done it hog style, dog style, just about any style. Drove the big Navy trucks, the 2x, the 4x, the 6x, the big mothers that bend in the middle and go, and if you don't like my face, bring it. What's
Hell yeah.
Oh
what?
yeah, Tom's on here spinning bars.
Yeah.
No,
Is
what?
that
Yes,
the Navy SEAL? They're
Yes.
like, yeah, okay. Because who was it that I saw? I think I was watching a video, I think with David Goggins and his story, and I think that's where I got it. That's where I recognized that, and I was like, yes, 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 yes. That's
Yes.
awesome. So wicked.
Let me, Tom, I kind of want to rewind a little bit on the
Yeah.
backstory of you. You know, when you let's look at you outside of butts. You know, you go through this SEAL training. You know, we see a lot, like us in Canada. We don't have the Navy SEALs like that, and we always, like he just said, Goggins, and you see these videos of buds training, how intense it is, and you know, and being a Navy SEAL in general, I can imagine the steps to become one, and
Best of the best.
exactly the hard work you got to get in. But
Yeah.
kind of talk us through um kind of where you were. Like, Tom, you're a Navy SEAL now, and you know, before you were removed from the military, like where were you at in your life as a US Navy SEAL where you decided, you know, I'm going to start dipping into the drugs and the alcohol, and you know, because when we look at,
Yeah.
especially from the outside, as a Navy SEAL, you don't think that they would even smoke a cigarette. You don't think, you know, that you think they're doing 1,000 push-ups a day every day. They're, you know what I mean, like top tier. But then you have someone who was a Navy SEAL, and now you're doing drugs.
Yeah.
So kind of talk is like, you know, going from military training, you know, on point to, you know, slowly hitting a downward spiral, if you will.
Yeah. Well, there's also a piece that needs to be alongside. As a Navy SEAL, I had a job, and my job was hospital corpsman. So I was the medic,
Mm.
which means that I was responsible for the medical and mental health of everybody that was in like a platoon. If I was part of a platoon, when I was back at command, I'd be in sick bay and I would do sick call and take care of folks. So that job there, when it came to doing a urinalysis, I got the phone call, I got the bottles ready, and I gave everybody a heads up, it's coming. So
Mm-hmm.
that was happening years ago. This is during my time, 79 to 88 was that time frame where of what I'm speaking of. And what it came down to is my addiction started, well, my experimentation started at 14. And by 15, I was an addict. And I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
that, but I brought into the military with me my addiction. I didn't find
Okay.
my addiction in the military.
Okay.
And if anything, by the time I was at the end of my career, I was in horrible shape. Because I had been there long enough, I had a reputation that I was able to uphold. Um, I made no mistakes until the end, and then at the very end, um, I fell asleep and woke up 3 days later in the military. That's UA, unauthorized absence,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where they finally held me down and took the blood test and the urine test, and it all came out. And that's
Okay.
how it ended. So in the beginning, um, I was in a time where Vietnam had just ended, and the military was not what you look at today. It
Mm-hmm.
was it was in shambles.
Yeah.
So we could do that. We could party it, and that's
Mm-hmm.
part of the allure of the SEAL. You know, drinking you actually had to have that ability, because if you didn't, you were kind of sequestered away. You were
Mm,
you were part of everything is, but as we gelled together, if you couldn't drink, you didn't gel with the vast
yeah,
majority.
okay.
And
I
the
see.
vast majority, out of that vast majority, what is it? 2/3 can stop. The other third's like me, and you know what? You're just eventually going to get caught.
Hmm.
So that's
Did you
pretty.
f- well, did you find that like the deeper and more training that you went, like when you're in the SEALs, that it was more pressure and it made you like drink a little bit more? Would you say that it pushed it, or do you think that it was just this growing entity that just was sucked onto you since you were 14, like you said, and it just finally just let go?
Yeah. So here's the thing. Um, this is my personal belief.
Okay.
You don't make a Navy SEAL. You're born a SEAL, and you
Hmm.
happen to get the opportunity. So in discussing that, the crazier, the more I wanted to be the first one doing it.
Hmm.
So it wasn't that kind of pressure. What it was spending the weekend and then on Monday going in knowing that you might have to do a piss test. There's the
Hmm.
anxiety and the pressure, and
Okay.
oh man, and why am I doing this? Why am I jeopardizing my career? And I'm an addict because I have to. And so it wasn't what I was doing. It was the party end of it that was doing me, that I knew was eventually going to get caught, which
Hmm.
created the anxiety, the depression, um, all of it as it did came
Would you say you
apart
were a high
at the very
functioning
end
addict through that
because,
time?
um, oh,
Oh,
yeah,
sorry, I cut out there. Okay.
absolutely. I was high functioning all the way until I started at 20. At 26, I was still there. 27, 28, and I was 29 and was released. So the last 2 years, it fell apart. The first 6 years, I was functioning no problem. I was able to regulate
Hmm.
it. I was able to deploy and not do it, come back and do it to extreme, and back and forth to where it all bled in and it became a career ender.
Well, since we're on the military
Yeah.
subject here, um, how did your experience in there influence the design and goals of your honor bound academy?
It's the foundation.
It is the
There's two
foundation.
pieces to it. Yeah. Uh, I went back as a contractor for the Department of Defense, and I was called what's a military family life consultant. And because of my background, I was allocated specifically to Special Operations Command. So I worked with the Army Special Forces, the Navy Special Forces, the Marine Corps Special Forces, and the Air Force Special Forces. And I was able to see all of them in how different we all are in how we address whatever the issue is. We can be merged, pulled apart, singularities. You have specific talents and abilities, but you have integrated ones. And so that piece was when I put together the bottom, the foundation of the Honor Bound Academy. I had looked at all the branches and how they did theirs. So it was a mixed match of not just the SEAL buds, but what you had with the Green Berets and what you had with Rangers. Same thing with the Air Force's PJs. I took pieces and brought it all together. And then again, I went back down to academia because I needed to have them wash it clean of military. Because you cannot,
Mm.
in this day and age, present military. It's
Hmm.
foundational. It's there. If you come and look, I can show you right where it's at. But it's also merged with the Native American spirituality and how you are becoming a warrior and they're transitioning. So it is part of, but not the whole piece. And it's uniquely created. And at this stage, this is the next attempt, because I got back up because I couldn't get funded, that this may be the one, because I left it in the book to say that I went with explaining what 10 different honor-bound academies would look like. You put one in Mississippi, you put one in New York, you put one in Texas, you put one in Washington. They're all different, but they're the same. And with that ability to have them in all of those places, there's what was I I lost my thought.
That's okay.
Yeah, no, it was, okay, there it is, came back. I utilized bringing together 4 foundations or 4 pillars. One was one of the wealthiest men in America. One was a Native American tribe. The other was the formatting of a special forces. And then I went to J.R.R. Tolkien put out The Lord of the Rings, and he's got all of these various things.
Yeah.
And I liked reading and seeing the different places where the dwarfs lived in their kingdoms, and it explained these wonderful castles or whatnot. Well, I don't want to just put you in a building and have it look 4 walls, and I'm going to build a chalet and put you in it and surround you with Native Americans and have one of the wealthiest individuals being the patron of that program. So with that said, I named names. I said Bill Gates and a number of other individuals. So that's in the book. If it goes and it becomes, and he reads it, you definitely can figure out how to get a hold of me.
Yeah, and it'll be in our description, definitely at the bottom of the podcast. So.
And this is me doing what I can do, putting it out in the energy of all of what we're sharing and letting the world see what it's going to do with it.
Exactly, and this is what we're here for, and this is what we're trying to do to help people, and hopefully someone grabs it and it turns into a beautiful thing for you.
And I have another quick question for you there, Tom. Yeah. We were talking about it earlier in the show about perspective and how, when people think that they fail, when really it's an opportunity. When you look back at being discharged as a U.S. Navy SEAL to now, what is your, how do you look at that, looking back to where your life is now? Because if it wasn't for that, you probably wouldn't have done this, you wouldn't have done that. So do you look at that as a blessing of being removed as a U.S. Navy SEAL?
Good question.
Oh, absolutely. Because you know what? In that question, you keep zeroing in on that. And I am drawn to that as such an amazing thing, because if I don't get busted and discharged at 29, I don't end up in a recovery facility. If I don't find a way to understand how to find sobriety and I don't go with adolescence, I never find purpose and meaning. I am at this stage, the relapse that I had 5 years ago was so needed because I was lying to myself. And the greater power or energy or whatever brought it to a head, and I fell again. And I fell horribly, this time to the degree that I had never before thought suicidal thoughts. So in having that experience today, I work so much better with my clients because I know how to talk about suicide. I know how to be able to address it in a way that it's non-threatening because I had it. It had it not been for that, I'm not as good as I am right now. So your point is, every failure had to happen because I wasn't about to stop and change directions because I'm not that smart. So thank you for that question, and I hope I answered
Yeah.
it.
That was a great answer. I have a question
Yeah.
kind of to touch on that, Tom. So, being in your field of work, there's obviously an educational background in
Yeah,
doing what you have to do, correct?
yeah,
But also knowing the stuff that we've talked about prior to being on the show about recovery and stuff like that, and lived experience.
yeah.
What do you find you utilize more when you're working? Not necessarily specifically with adolescents, but like in general, like do you use more of your like I'm sure they both come into play quite a bit, but do you find your educational background gets utilized more or your lived experience?
So here's the thing is, see how I'm dressed? From my waist up to half sleeves, I'm tattooed front and back. So
Hell yeah.
you might not see that right now, but
Hell yeah,
I'm
buddy.
looking at you guys. But you
Yeah.
see, you're talking with kids. You got to be a kid. He don't want to hear about your education. He want to know about your tattoos.
That's
And as
right.
Yeah.
soon as I got them
Yeah.
asking about my tattoos, then the relationship of give and take starts. And
Yeah.
you stay true to your word and kids will come back. I ran a
Yeah.
boys and girls club for 4 years. Started with 59 kids. 4 years later, I had 440 kids. And that was
Wow.
because
Wow.
I was the biggest kid in the house. I
Yeah.
peed in all four corners. You could not be disrespectful in my house. I was the big brother. I ain't your daddy. And
hmm
it was the most wonderful experience that taught me
That's
how
amazing.
to work with kids. Do not let your hair down, tattoos fly, and be who you are.
Yeah. And that's
And
what
when
we
the
were talking
question
about
comes
earlier, is
up,
coming onto the level.
yeah, and when the question comes up, I can go deep on giving you an analytical, psychological,
hmm
social, paradigm changing aspect of how I would do cognitive behavioral therapy. You see what I'm saying? That's all.
Yep.
Yeah.
All that it is you not knowing what I'm doing, and I'm getting you to do what I want you to do without you knowing that I'm doing that, and you think you're in
hmm
control. Here.
Touche,
Well,
sir.
I got two questions, and this is probably
Only
everybody
two.
wants to know this question. Well,
Okay.
it's a two-part question.
All
And
right.
I bet you all our listeners, me definitely, I want to know this, probably Anthony and Joey. Are aliens real?
You know what? Here's the piece.
Let's ask a soldier.
Yeah.
You know what? I go to bed every night and I put on Netflix. What is it? Ancient Aliens, and I fall asleep to it.
hmm
I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I turn it off. I want to believe. You know what?
Yeah.
I want
Us
to.
too.
And a part of my elbow says that, you know what? ET's here.
Oh yeah,
But
definitely.
I'm going to be real and tell you that, you know what? I believe what you want me to believe when it comes to that. But between us,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
So you don't have any undisclosed NDAs that you signed years ago that are still kind of active that are
Area,
going to come in?
Area 52
Not
or
in
Yeah.
that
51.
domain. No, I was not privy to that. Although watching Ancient Aliens, you see, wow, there's a lot of folks
Oh
that
yeah.
did. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
but
Okay,
mine
so
never crossed that.
okay, so now to the real question.
Okay.
You're right about encountering an impenetrable. I can't even say the word wrong. Impenetrable wall during your journey.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about that experience and how you overcame it?
Yeah. This was the last one. For the last 10 years, seeking, I've been to boardrooms, I've been introduced to breakfasts, I have sat with people who had the kind of money that I was asking for, and it's spare change to them. And at
hmm
each turn, having presented it, and I've got a brochure that is, you know what, all the research in the brochure that I can hand you to explain, right down to having how the finances are so that I can run this. And
hmm
nobody saw the vision. And if it was me trying to get something for me, okay, I can live with that. But my clientele are adolescent, young adults trying to figure out this world that we as adults are just absolutely not paying attention to, and leaving them what? So I am frustrated. I am angry. I want to get even, because I can write a book and I could have worded it like so and so didn't give me this, and this happened. And the bottom line is I'm reaching out to the 10 wealthiest men again, because this is so important to me, because of my desire to give back to the young people that saved my life. I will never quit. I will never give up. I will never give in, and I will continue on. And that's what this is. That impregnable wall was, you didn't give me the money, but I'm coming again. Here.
Yeah. Good. Good.
I
Never give
got
up, man.
one last question for you, Tom. Do you live with any regrets?
Ooh, good one.
Yeah. 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 Do you want it?
If you're okay to hear to share that.
No, you know, the regret would, if anything, have been to finish the career correctly. 20 years, Navy SEAL, retire. I know that as I have aged, has become less and less of a feeling of that, but I would have liked to end it as an E9 with 23, 24 years, with all the experiences, because when I got out, the military was changing into something that was even crazier than when I was there. And so
I'm sorry, Tom. I got to stop you right there. I don't think that's a regret, because look where you are today, and look that you're helping youth, you know? And if you didn't, say you did go through that and do all that, well, you may not be here, and you may not have helped the youth that you helped today. So me personally,
I
don't
have no
see that
argument with that then.
And you wouldn't have written the 2 books sitting behind you.
Exactly.
And you know, and you're hitting walls just like I'm hitting a wall right now in other areas of my life, but the way that we are and the tools that we use, you know, like we said at the beginning of the show, it's okay to take a knee. It's being self-aware and the perspective of what you put on that situation, right? And I, you know, I was not in your shoes as a Navy SEAL, and I think that would be badass, and I would love that. So,
Yeah.
but
Envy
you
it,
know,
even.
regardless of, you know, it's sorry, I should say it. That was all in the past, and like you did those things at that time because that's what you wanted to do,
Yeah.
and you can't change that.
Yeah.
Just like we say things in a relationship or to people we didn't mean, but at that time, that's what you wanted to say. You can't change that. So now, as you're looking at back, is, you know, that perspective, right? And instead of incarcerating yourself with it in your mind, right, using that as your power, and looking at, like Eric just said, is look at the people you are helping. Look at the kids. The world needs more people like you.
Wow, thank
Yeah.
you.
You know,
Definitely.
1,000,000%. You know, and if it wasn't for me trying to kill myself or Eric's fiance passing away, you know, to go through these kinds of hardships, we wouldn't be sitting here tonight. We wouldn't have, like, if it wasn't for the last girl that broke my heart, if it wasn't for, you know what I mean? Even when you look back at the relationships and even the jobs like you had or a career.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't for that, you wouldn't be the person you are today. So it's all about how you look at it with your perspective, right? So there's shouldn't be, and it isn't guilt, like Eric said, is that was the universe telling you you're not supposed to be a Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
You are supposed to be an advocate for other people and saving their lives and and helping that one extra person trying to change somebody's world.
Yeah.
And give back. And just like we started this show, the whole reason me and Eric at the beginning started this was we just wanted to help and save one person. That's it. And now, fast forward over a year, and this is far surpassed where we even thought. We just do this because we want to help, because we give a shit.
Yeah.
Right. And now I think we've saved 4 people's lives literally from committing suicide. And we're in these countries, blah, blah, blah. But if it wasn't for those heartbreaks, the suicide attempts, and all these traumas from child abuse to losing family members, it wouldn't have put us in this seat. Just like it wouldn't have put you in that seat, because the universe had a plan for you. And that was to tell you that you needed to fuck that up, because that was not your path. That was not your career.
Mhm.
Your career was to be educated and get degrees and write those books sitting behind you and help young people and be better people in this
Definitely.
world, because this world
100.
is fucked.
Yeah.
And we need better people in this world.
Thank
So I want to take my hat off to you personally, and the life that you lived and what you had to overcome. You're an inspiration. And that being said, I would love for you, and we would, for give you this minute to let everybody know where you are on social media.
Yeah.
Shout out your book, both of them.
Yeah.
Put it up to the screen. Tell everybody what it's called, where they can find it.
Even plug your publisher too, man, for reaching out. Thank you, Jasmine, too. So feel free to do that too. We'd love all that.
So it started here. This was the first one. I was in the Horn of Africa, and it came about, my life story from beginning till the 50s, somewhere in there. And then this here, this is the one that was just created, Special Welfare, Social Warfare, Adolescence to Adulthood, a guidebook. I have a program that I'm seeking to create, to bring into the real world, to offer it to specifically ages 18, 19, and 20. And I do wish to clarify right now, which is incredibly important, is this is built with the masculine in all of its words. But at the very end, I share that I also have a Rolodex with a title that says Feminine Mystique, because the ladies, you have the need for a program such as this, just as the young men do. And I made sure that I was able to address it masculine, feminine, and it is right now what I am seeking to get funding for, so that I can become what is called an adolescent combat diplomat. That's in the writing here. And the adolescence comes from my work with adolescents. Combat comes from my military career. And the diplomat is, I have a credential that says I am a board certified diplomat in clinical social work. So I've got all the bells and whistles. And as a title, adolescent combat diplomat, I'm seeking to apply for the job of advocacy for all of America's youth. That's what I'm here for. My website is thehonorboundacademy.org. Thehonorboundacademy.org. You will find all the information on my website, including all the platforms that I'm on. And please reach out, come and see me, start a conversation, and let me know what you're thinking. And to you 3 gentlemen, you are heartfelt for the rest of my life, because you've given me first opportunity to be on air, to say this message, and I thank you for it.
Oh, we loved having you on here.
Thank you.
Yeah,
we thank you more than you know.
Yeah.
And what you're doing with the youth too, man, is just, it needs to be done. It needs that's where it starts, right? As childhood, that's where it starts, and we have to change the mindsets and help these kids grow up. I didn't have it. A lot of us didn't have it, but thank God you're here and you're helping these kids. So
and I mean, thank you all.
It's amazing.
And thank you so much for being vulnerable too and sharing your story. Like we know the books are pretty important, but we really appreciate you coming on and like answering our questions about you
Yes.
as well, and like what made you you.
Yeah.
And sorry, what was the term you used? Adolescent combat diplomat.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
The way you described that was fucking flawless, my friend.
Hell
That's
yeah.
such a cool,
Hell yeah.
cool thing,
Thank you
man. That's
much.
amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing. And
Because that's the first time I've worded it. It's not been said anywhere else, and I was trying to get it right.
well, you nailed it,
Well,
man. And as you were saying
yeah.
that too, I just thought of the question that Joey had asked you about any regrets, and you said about how you got discharged or whatever. But
Yeah.
that's
But
part of
realistically, after you shared that, nah,
yeah.
you're right.
Yeah.
That's part of being an adolescent combat diplomat, my friend. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
you.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And I mean, this you're. I just want to let you know you're part of the Raw Minds family here. So,
Yes.
absolutely.
and
And
we'd
I
love
have
for you to come back.
all the ability to maintain contact with you three. So
Definitely,
here.
please
Hey,
do.
and if you ever down the road you got some youth that will come down for a weekend and be able to chat with some of your youth, and you know,
Yeah.
we were there, and we
Yep.
would love to do something
Yeah.
like that in the future. You know, that's our goal as well, is to be able to travel, talk to schools, talk to kids.
Yep.
You know, so we'll keep in touch, Tom, and we'll promote you, and you know, I ordered your other book, actually, the second one, right before we started the show.
Okay.
And so you're a good man, Tom. You keep doing what you're doing, my friend.
Thank you
And
very much.
Anthony, you want to take
yes,
that away?
yes. We genuinely appreciate you, Tom. The other thing that I want to acknowledge, which has been pretty cool too, the last few episodes, is like we always bullshit for 5-10 minutes at the beginning of the episode, but for some wild reason, it always becomes the topic of the show. Like, like last week it was gratitude, and then we talked to Laverne, and Laverne like oozed gratitude, and then tonight we talked to Tom, and it's about perspective and like not letting your things hold you down.
Yes.
Like the universe just has a weird way of making things exactly the way that they should be. So Tom, we like, from all of us at Raw Minds here, from us three and our listeners, like we genuinely appreciate you coming on. We will absolutely have you back.
Yes, please.
Yes. This was an amazing episode, and it's good. I feel like that's something that we haven't really acknowledged that much, is the adolescence. So I feel like you're going to be a staple in this network of beautiful human beings that we're building.
Good.
And you're a great person to have in our repertoire. So thank you again.
You just gave me an idea there, Tony. I mean,
Did
Anthony.
you?
Sorry, as Tony,
Call
because
me
that's your
whatever
name
you
on
want. Call me
TikTok.
whatever you want.
But I think that's a great idea. Actually, we could probably do an episode just on that, and we could have Tom come back and have his opinion on that too. Actually,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
yeah.
So
Look at that.
next week we have to touch base, but I'm pretty sure we have a guest on local to you, gentlemen, over in Vancouver, if I'm not mistaken, who has quite an interesting upbringing and quite a story, and something I'm looking to learn a lot more about, which is stem cell research. Pretty crazy story. So stay tuned for that. And for all the listeners, like I said last week, and like I'll say again this week, like Tom reached out to us, and we got Tom in the show within a matter of a month. Like, if you have an amazing story, if you have things that you're doing in your life that's going to change the lives of others, we would love to have you on. We are an open platform to share your experience and share the tools that you have to overcome the things that you've overcome and help others overcome the things that they're dealing with too. So if you want to hit us up, reach out to us on email at rawmindspodcast@gmail.com. Hit us up on social media. We're on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook at Raw Minds Podcast. And if you want to chat with any of us, just hit us up. We all have our own personal TikTok accounts too. Rawminds.Eric, Rawminds.Joey, Rawminds.Anthony. And while you're at it, when you're giving us a listen, please don't hesitate to leave us a review. It means a lot to us, and it'll help us kind of get out there more. Thank you again, Tom. Thank you for being a part of this. Thank you for joining the family.
Thank
and
you,
thank you for
Tom.
everybody listening. Have a great
We
night, guys.
appreciate everybody.
You're here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Yes.